Chapter 2. Georgia. She quickly climbs down the vine straight back to her house. Through the ringing of the warning bell and the running of people throughout the narrow streets, she forgets that her father is still outside the protector. When Jessica arrives home, she finds that Jane is already gathering rocks and stones to cover up the windows and holes in the walls. Jessica starts stuffing all their food in her bag before digging a deep hole in the dirt floor to cover it. Jane finishes covering the doorway and holes in the wall with the large stones, and she then seems to dig as well. What is she doing? Is she planning to bury herself? "Mother! What are you doing?" Jessica shouts through the warning bell alarm. "There's no way you—" Jessica cuts herself off when she finally realizes that she has dug to a small wooden chest. Jane moves the chest closer to her, and then she opens it. Inside is a sharp steel knife, with a red ruby at its hilt. Jane's looking at Jessica, but Jessica already knows what she's thinking through the loud noise. She mouths the words, "This is yours, Jessica, from me." Jessica grabs it and wraps it tight around her hand beside her hip, tucked under her belt. Jane and Jessica bend down and duck their heads between their knees, under Jane's blankets. There's a long screeching cry. The Yippie has reached the protector. The screams of children are heard from the other houses, and the continuous deafening cry of the Yippie is heard, which seems to go on forever. The warning bell has stopped now, but the shouting from the warriors can be heard throughout the village. "Fire at its heart!" Jessica hears the screams of the others. The guards must have brought their arrows and have begun shooting. There's an even louder roar of the Yippie and a shout from a guard. Did the Yippie break the protector's magic? Of course not. That can never happen. Can it? Jessica and Jane have been waiting for the screeches of the Yippie to stop for many minutes now, but the Yippie seems to be still at the village's wall, and Jessica doesn't think it wants to move. Suddenly, the screeching softens and the screams stop and the guards are clapping and cheering. The Yippie has fled. Jane and Jessica take down the rocks in the walls and place them in the corner of the kitchen so they can be ready for when another monster invades. Jessica only had 3 monsters attempt to invade South Head in her lifetime. Jane says she's lost count. Jessica doesn't remember seeing the other 2 monsters, as she was only 4 and 6 years old when they happened. This attack was shorter than they expected. Jessica moves outside to see the children and parents are in the courtyard waiting for the Colex, as she had done before the Yippie came. Had the Colex come when the Yippie was invading, or had they been taken by something? "Jessica, where is your dagger?" Jessica feels a tug on her clothes. It's Jane. "Is it safe with you?" "Yeah, it is." Jessica feels on her hip where the knife is. "See, here." She points at her hip. She knows what it's for anyway. Jane moves closer and pulls Jessica closer too. "Your father is okay," Jane whispers to Jessica, putting the cloak she left in the bedroom around her. "He's just running late. Don't worry." Jessica and Jane return back home, and Jane prepares the fire. Jessica sits next to her while she pours in some water. "So," Jessica starts, "with this traveling thing, who's coming with me?" Jane looks at her. "Well, I'll know you'll be great friends, as I was with her mother." Jane's eyes daydream, and she thinks of the times when she was little. "You are traveling with a girl named Georgia Bankgrove. But she's not any ordinary girl. She's a sorcerer, as her mother discovered." Jessica's mouth drops. "How can a normal girl like Georgia be a sorcerer?" she says quickly. Jane slides some wild berries into a pot and places it on the fire. "Her mother Kaya and I were best friends when we were little." Jane recounts the years she spent growing up with Kaya. "We always dreamed of going to Bestaratra City, but we could never. It was impossible for us to go, especially because we knew nothing about the outside world. And that continued until I met your father, who knew so much. But of course, we had you, and my plans to leave were beyond my reach." "Then why do you want me to go?" Jessica interrupts. "I don't know either." Jane shakes her head. "You're smart, and you'll have Georgia to keep you company, and help you too." Jane moves some herbs from her pocket, and slides them into the pot. "She's making stew for lunch. See, you know how to live by yourself, and Georgia doesn't. Really. So you can help each other. If Georgia is a sorcerer, why can't she take care of herself? Jessica proclaims, confused. If she can do all these spells and stuff, why can't she? Jessica's interrupted by a loud cheer of a crowd outside. The crowd that had been waiting at the south of the Protector are clapping and cheering. Did the Colex return? Jessica drops the conversation and quickly stands up and walks outside, ignoring her mother. When she makes it to the southern courtyard, she sees the Colex have returned. She starts looking for her father, but that's when Jessica realizes that the numbers of Colex are smaller. Jessica searches the crowd, but she can't find Joseph. She can't find the two with the injuries either. There were so many, shouts a Colex from the cart. They ate our mule, said another. We separated, gasps another. None of them seem to be able to recount what happened. The cheering and clapping ease when some families find that their loved ones had not come through the wooden doors. No, it can't be, Jessica thinks desperately. Not father. He should return. Jessica's running around the village, frantically looking around at all the men's faces, trying to see if her father was somewhere in the village. Jessica manages to stop herself from searching and returns home, where her lunch is waiting for her. Dear, where did you go? Jane asks calmly while she knits in her corner. Was it the Colex? Jessica sits down in front of her bowl of berry stew and begins eating. Jane looks at her closely, and that's when she knows that Joseph didn't return from outside. When Jessica started talking again, she told Jane what she heard at the courtyard, and how they were separated from the beasts outside. It's okay, Jane sighs. She looks at her, and Jessica knows she shouldn't worry. Your father is probably lost and is trying his best to get back home. You know this, Jessica. Jessica nods and stares out the window, or hole, still sitting next to her half-empty bowl. She looks at the sun, how its shining rays made lovely patterns on the walls. Something sparks inside Jessica, and she smiles. If father's out there, and alive, she thinks, then I should be able to survive out there too. It was from there where Jessica confirmed with her mother that she will leave Southhead tomorrow. That evening, Jane was discussing with Jessica what she might face outside. Jessica knew that if she could get to Bestaratra City, she could earn money and bring some back to her parents, or even the whole village. Jessica, you know the herbs and plants that could help in your journey, but you don't know how to fight. Jane continues. Georgia can help you, maybe, with her spells, but if you somehow get separated, you need to rely on these skills that you must learn. Jessica takes note on what Jane is saying, and knows that if she is to go outside, she would have to learn how to kill, or at least fight. She's killed rats in the village with no problem, but outside would be different. Most of the time you must aim at the heart or the neck, but if you come across giant beasts, then you must hide and take cover. Jane's being very serious, but Jessica already knows something huge isn't worth fighting. Use the dagger I gave you for short distance attacks, but for long distance... Jane stops for a moment. I guess you need to use your imagination. Jessica nods before wrapping herself in her cloak, lighting a stick, and leaving. Long distance, she thinks as she takes a turn for the courtyard. What could be long distance? Jessica remembers herself and her father annoying rats in the village by shooting sticks with a little wooden bow. I'm not bad with a bow, Jessica suggests to herself. But I don't have any arrows, or a big enough bow, and I can't steal from the warriors. Jessica moves slowly through the streets underneath the warm orange sky. She's going to see if the Colex have anything they needed to be delivered, even though they were separated. In the courtyard is the cart, but there is no one around. Jessica goes closer to the cart to see if there is anything inside it. Nothing, only the scraps of some wild berries and a ruined blanket stand in the lonely cart. But something else catches Jessica's attention. There's a sudden movement in the alley next to Jessica. She turns and begins walking to the alley. Hello, Jessica whispers. She walks closer towards the dark alley. With a sudden move, Jessica steps backwards, only to see a young girl with golden hair walk from the darkness. She has a slightly pointed nose, and her hair reaches past her shoulders. Her blue clothes are smudged with dirt, but everyone is like that in Southhead. Is your name Jessica? The small girl asks quietly. Jessica bites her lip and moves a bit closer. Yes. Jessica bends down to the girl's level. What's your name? Georgia. Jessica steps back with shock. Is this little girl actually going to be her traveling companion to the capital? Georgia, are you really a sorcerer? Well, sort of, Georgia implies before her body starts bubbling white. What is happening? Jessica steps back again and draws her dagger. This girl isn't real. To her amazement, the white bubbling figure forms into another figure. It shapes into another girl, nearly Jessica's age, 15, but with the same face, hair, and clothes. It was as if the little girl Jessica just saw grew up into an older girl. Hello, Jessica, Georgia says. As you know, I'm Georgia. My mother told me you might be here for, I think, passes? So let me introduce myself. I'm a sorcerer, but I don't know much at all. Jessica steps forward, looking at the girl. Jessica shifts the torch towards Georgia's face. Is something wrong? Georgia grunts, bending back away from the torch near her face. No, nothing's wrong, says Jessica, lowering the torch. It's just your face seems to be not human. It is as if her face is near plastic or rubber. Jessica's torch would show a faint reflection on her face. Georgia nods. I know, my parents were surprised about that when I was born. But look at you, your beautiful brown hair and... Georgia trails off to Jessica's hip. You're not going to use that on me, are you? Jessica nearly laughs, but instead shakes her head. Georgia points at the alleyway she walked out of. My mother's home is just down that street. Sorry about shocking you with my transformation thing. I can't control when that happens. Most of the time I want to hide it. Georgia beams, looking at Jessica. Jessica looks at Georgia and gives a welcoming smile. Have you been told about going to Bestratra City, Georgia? Jessica's curious if she got the news suddenly like she did. Georgia nods again. I know that I'm going with you, and I knew that we will be friends straight away. We are friends now, right? Georgia looks foolishly at Jessica. Yeah, she replies. We are best friends, and soon we will be lifelong best friends, like our mothers. Georgia nods again, more grateful, before the both of them farewell each other and return to their homes, knowing that they will soon leave to Bestratra capital tomorrow, outside.